Okay, how's it going, everybody? So we're going to read some early Frederick Engels. This is a letter he wrote in 1842. I suppose it wasn't too early because he eventually, well, this is about the time they had to flee to England. Like, this was the year right before it, I believe. So, but this is a letter to his sister. This is written in January 5th, 1842. So this is to Marie Engels in Mannheim. Let's go ahead and get into this. My dear Marie, your letter reminded me, to my enormous shame, how much I have neglected my duty to write to you. It was really disgraceful of me, and so there is no excuse whatever for this crime. So I'm setting to work immediately and replying to your nice letter, which I received the day before yesterday. I had a dose of cannon fever yesterday. What happened was this. I was very unwell and felt really weak the whole morning, and was then ordered to artillery practice and was nearly laid out at the gun. So I left and had a shocking fever all the afternoon. I felt a bit better this morning, but still was not quite up to the mark at the gunfire practice. Although I have now almost recovered and have got myself 2 days sick leave on account of Carthrow cannon fever, after which I hope I shall be able to handle the sponge properly again. Incidentally, don't write home about this, it won't be of any use. Do you know what the doctor prescribed for my cannon fever? A glass of punch before going to bed. Isn't that splendid medicine? You can see from this that an army surgeon is worth much more than, say, a Dr. Reinhold with all his plasters, Spanish flies, leeches, etc. Although he doesn't need to know nearly as much. But we only apply powerful remedies here. Genuine medical heavy artillery, bombs and shells, and 24-pounders. Our prescriptions are very simple, and I always cured myself that way in Bremen. First of all, beer. If that doesn't help, then punch. If that doesn't help either, then a swig of rum. That's bound to help. That's artillery medical treatment for you. But I'm sure you would laugh yourself sick if you saw me in my jerkin standing above the 6-pounder, a long, thick sponge in my hand, and jumping around the gun carriage. My uniform, incidentally, is very fine, blue with a black collar, adorned with 2 broad yellow stripes, and black yellow striped facings together, with red piping around the coattails. Furthermore, the red shoulder straps are edged with white. I assure you the effect is most impressive, and I'm worthy to be put on show. But of this, the other day, I shamefully embarrassed Ruckert, the poet, who is here at present. I sat down right in front of him as he was giving a poetry reading, and the poor fellow was so dazzled by my shining buttons that he quite lost the thread of what he was saying. Apart from all this, as a soldier, I enjoy the privilege of not having to knock at anyone's door when I go see them, nor having to say good day or pay them any other compliments. Someone once came to our captain's quarters and accidentally banged against the door with his scabbard. He got a week's arrest because the captain insisted that he had knocked on the door. You see what kind of cutthroat I am. On top of it, I shall soon be promoted to bombardier, which is a sort of non-commissioned officer. And I shall get gold braid to wear on my facings. So you must treat me with proper respect. Because once I am a bombardier, I shall have all the privates in the whole Prussian army under my command, and they will all have to salute me. Why do you talk so much nonsense in your letter about Fritz Wilhelm, Frederick William III, and about young Fritzen Wilmchen, Frederick William IV? You women should not interfere in politics. You don't understand anything about it. But since you don't so much want to hear something about your beloved Majesty, I can tell you that His Supreme Royal Highness will leave for London on the 16th of this month, in order to act as godfather to His Royal Highness, the little English Prince, Edward, and will perhaps visit Paris on the return journey, but most certainly Cologne. And in the spring he is going to Petersburg to celebrate the silver wedding of his noble brother-in-law, the all-highest Tsar of Russia, Nicholas I. They return to amuse himself in Potsdam in the summer, to spend the autumn on the Rhine, and then to amuse himself in Charlottenburg during the winter. Now I must go lecture. January 6, 1842. So he said something, he said something to his sister that might have sounded kind of sexist. He said, but keep in mind this is the 1840s. He's talking to his sister. It's kind of, you really couldn't expect much else, right? I mean, this is kind of how things are during this time. It's not as looked down upon then as it is now. That's kind of how he probably would talk to his sister. in a way. And I'm not sure how exactly, how she'd take that anyway. But apparently they exchanged letters. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this other letter here that he has in the same reading here. This morning I moved out of the front room in the back room because the front one has been let to a man from my part of the country, a jurist from the Cologne area. In any case, it is badly heated. This is curious, for the back room is larger than the front one, but it is always warm from a little heating, while the front one is as cold as ice. Whatever I did, I could never get the ice ferns on the windows in the front room to melt. But here at the back, it is a pleasure to watch the ice, which has frozen finger thick during the last meeting, melting away as in spring, in the bright blue sky, which I was unable to see from my former room for so long, is gaily looking in. I can once again see the barracks of the 2nd Guards Regiment of Mudlarks, as we call the infantry, and the veterinary school and everything attached to it. We've got a Rhinelandish restaurant here where all our favorite home dishes, which are otherwise quite unknown here, are served. Every Saturday night we have fried potato cake along with a jug of coffee. Yesterday I had apple and potato. Our good old duck soup, which you know well, has a distinguished place there, and lots of other things which do not come to my mind. There is pork and sauerkraut for lunch today, which I'm looking forward to. The other day, he was going to treat us to panas, Rhenish meat dish. But it didn't come off because there is no buckwheat flour to be had. So we can't have yeast pancakes either, which we have long been languishing for. Splendid, the sun is beginning to shine well and truly, which I find most delightful, and so I shall go for a walk after dinner. And since Schelling is not lecturing tonight, I shall have the whole evening to myself, and be able to work seriously and without interruption. The local theater is very fine, magnificent sets, splendid actors, but mostly bad singers. So I don't very often go to the opera. Tomorrow there will be a new play, Columbus, by Werther. This is about Columbus, who discovered America, and Werther is a professor at the university here. The man who discovered the profundity of negation. Very verily I say unto you, the theater will be really full tomorrow night, and I will be there contributing to its fullness. 2 of the acts take place on a ship at sea, which should be interesting to watch. Here you see me in uniform, with my great coat draped around my shoulder in a most romantic and picturesque fashion, but strictly against regulations. If I were to go out like this into the street, I should risk being arrested at any moment, which isn't very pleasant. For if I'm seen in the street with even one button on my uniform, or one hook on my collar unfastened, any officer or NCO can put me under arrest. So you see, it is quite dangerous to be a soldier, even in peacetime. One of the most delightful things is that we have to go to church every 4 weeks, but I have always managed to dodge it, except once. You have to stand in the yard for an hour beforehand, wearing your heavy decorated shako with its plumes, and then when you are frozen right through, you go into the ice-cold church, where you cannot even hear anything of the sermon, for the acoustics are so bad. Isn't that delightful? Write again soon. Your brother Frederick. The ceiling wafer isn't one of the best. Okay, yeah. So this is a letter to his sister, Marie Engels, on January 5th, 1842. Yeah. So apparently, he was in the military during this time. I honestly didn't know that until I read this now. Apparently, Marx was not due to a chest condition he had, but apparently Frederick Engels was a part of the artillery, which would make sense that he would get in the artillery if he had a choice, because he'd be the type that likes the mechanics of machines and stuff. I mean, he's obviously he's much of a scientist himself. He's kind of a natural scientist, the way he writes and looks at things. And so well, thank y'all for tuning in. Marxist stuff. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe, hit the like button. Medium, Tumblr, all of these, hit me up there. Y'all have a great day, and Dodata Goi.